Sports leagues all of a sudden have just been super greedy recently. I mean, with streaming exclusive games, ads everywhere. In college football, you have stupid conference realignment. I mean, let's get started with the NFL. The last few years, the NFL has been increasingly moving to streaming. Why? I'll tell you why. Money. But the NFL won't say that. The NFL last year had their first ever exclusive game behind a paywall, and they hyped this thing up as a good thing. No one liked it. You know, they got $110 million from Peacock for Peacock to exclusively air a wild card playoff game last year, and they didn't give Peacock the Texans game, the Saturday 4:30 game. They gave them the Kansas City Chiefs game last year. And it worked out pretty well for Peacock, and the ratings were better than most people expected. 23 million people watched that game between the Chiefs and the Miami Dolphins. But it was still the least watched game of the playoffs, even though it was one of the more high-profile matchups. So clearly, they angered a lot of people. But why? The NFL did it because they think they're expanding their product. I remember this from last year. I refused to watch that game because I thought it was ridiculous, and didn't pay for it. I mean, they're doing just fine over the air on TV. They don't need $110 million from Peacock, but they took it anyways. And then that's the most egregious example. I mean, Prime Video, I can somewhat defend that because at least people know what that is. Although the biggest thing is you can't surf the channels, which doesn't talk for another day. And then if passwords, I hate passwords. Making people use passwords, just yuck. The Netflix Christmas Day games, again, at least people have Netflix. At least people know what that is. So it's not as bad. At least people know what that is. But still, not a fan. You could easily be fine financially and be over the air on TV. ESPN Plus is an exclusive game every year, why? Yeah, the NFL going to streaming, and right now it's pretty tenable if you don't pay for any streaming subscriptions like I don't. You can still watch most of the games, for the most part. But I fear it's only going to get worse with the next TV deal. I hope it's not, but I fear it's only going to get worse with the things where things are trending. At least the NFL doesn't have ads on the field. That's the one thing I can give them compared to the other leagues. Because all of a sudden, everyone has ads on jerseys in hockey and basketball and baseball. Ads on the ice in hockey, digitally. And then in basketball, you have ads on the court that are on that take-off signage of the court. Just look at an NBA court 10 years ago compared to today. It looks so much worse today. It looks awful. Now, the argument's going to be it's for money, and everything's for money. I understand that. This is just weird that there have always been reasons for greed and money, but if this is happening, why wasn't it happening 30 years ago, is my question. Now, COVID impacts could be a big deal, and yes, I think that's a big reason for what the NHL is doing with that. But, and I understand it. They're making a lot of money out of it, but there's been times that you've lost money. It's just weird to me how all of a sudden they're just doing this in the name of money when this was such a really easy way to make money. I'm just thinking, if you're for this, you're just why didn't this happen 20 years ago? Imagine how much money you could have made 20 years ago. And then perhaps one of the biggest corporates of this is college football, conference realignment. You have Cal and Stanford in the ACC, the Pac-12 breaking up, USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten, along with Washington, Oregon. OU and Texas going to the SEC I'm cool with because, like, the SEC is still you have some regionality there. The Big Ten just feels weird. Like, I cover Maryland basketball. Why are they playing Washington, Oregon in basketball in the regular season in a conference game? Just why? It's just a joke. Like, there's no history. There's no reason for it. It's just stupid. And a lot of people were complaining about how Boise State and Arizona State didn't deserve byes because they weren't one of the 4 best teams. Yeah, they aren't. And I think we saw that. Why did teams with a bye have disadvantages? Often Oregon and Georgia, or honestly, maybe not Georgia, because, I mean, Georgia kind of was, because Notre Dame ends up going to the national title game, but it feels like Oregon and Georgia would have had a better shot if they lost the conference title game, because they would have had an easier opponent, even though they were the lower seed, because they would have played a lower-ranked conference champion. Now, the argument's going to be just rank the teams. And the problem with that is it just makes the regular season even more meaningless. And then you can even have like a committee be biased towards the SEC, the Big Ten. Like if you just did that, Alabama would have been ahead of Arizona State. They shouldn't have been, but like the committee would have done that. And you can have conference championships get in. But the whole reason for this problem, this format was perfect in the previous conferences because, like, the conferences were somewhat balanced. Now they're not. So it's like, it's just not an even playing field in college football anymore because of the conference realignment and the 12-team playoff. The problem isn't the conference champions getting the highest 4 seeds. The problem is that money made this happen in the first place, and that these conferences are all messed up in the first place, and they're not balanced, which causes this to happen, and it makes conference championships games meaningless. And then blackouts, why in hockey, a game on NHL Network, you can't watch. You literally can't. There's no way to watch it because it's not on ESPN Plus. Even though no one has an NHL Network, because NHL Networks has the exclusive games. ESPN Plus has exclusive games. It's just the whole thing's a mess, and it wasn't like that. You used to have one thing in a centralized place, but all these they want a little bit for themselves. Like NHL games exclusively on ESPN Plus. ESPN paid for the NHL, I guess, to have content on ESPN Plus, but you already have thousands of games on ESPN Plus. Why do you need exclusive games? And all the exclusive games do is it makes it less accessible to people. Why would you want that? Oof, yeah, and then next thing I want to talk about is the NFL has kind of sucked since December. It's been boring. There's been no drama. I mean, Week 18 was super boring. You had literally, other than, I guess, the NFC South, you had no drama. The Sunday night game that was supposed to be great was not exciting. 14-win Vikings, 14-win Lions. That game was a blowout. And the final spot in the AFC wildcard, Denver easily won that game because Kansas City rested their players, so no drama there. Just super undramatic. Wildcard weekend wasn't any better. 5 of 6 games were blowouts. And we have 8 teams left in the NFL playoffs. I mean, other than the Washington Commanders, those games have been exciting. But other than it feels like games featuring Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders, and I guess that Broncos-Bengals game recently, there hasn't been any excitement. I don't know why that is. I mean, I've heard people say it's quality of play. And yes, quality of play is definitely down at the quarterback position. You do have 4 elite quarterbacks, I'd say. Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Burrow. But you have a lot of mediocre quarterbacks, it feels like. And this is Spence Kling signing off from Spence Sports.